and welcome to Baby Steps, presented by BetterHelp. I'm your host, Jordana Abraham, and on Baby Steps, we're exploring the various paths to parenthood that lay ahead when starting a family doesn't come easy. With the help of weekly guests, I'm taking you on my own fertility journey and asking the questions that need to be asked. Trying to have a baby, especially when you experience obstacles, can be a huge emotional and mental challenge. And that's why I invited BetterHelp to join us as the presenting sponsor of Baby Steps. If you're thinking of starting therapy, I recommend giving BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, convenient, and suited to your schedule. Just go to betterhelp.com/babysteps today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/babysteps. Therapy can give you the tools to navigate the difficult transitions in life, and the path to parenthood is definitely one of them. My guest today is Amanda Freeman, founder and CEO of SLT Fitness, to talk all about finding a sperm donor to get pregnant on your own. But before we get to Amanda, as always, here's my sister and the host of the Oversharing podcast, Dr. Naomi Bernstein. Naomi, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for including me in this. I'm excited to hear about this next guest.
Yeah. So the next guest, I loved this conversation because basically she's the founder of SLT, which is in New York. It's like a really great reformer Pilates studio. She went to Harvard Business School. She's just like a super accomplished woman. We were really basically talking about how she had her daughter, I think 7 or 8 years ago. She says in the show, we actually recorded this on her daughter's birthday, but she had her daughter at 38. She was single. And a big part of what we talked about that I know you would love and that I think that is really important is she talks about, before making this decision to have this baby on her own, she talks about like grieving the life that she thought she would have. And that was like almost the hardest part of it for her.
Totally. Yeah, you kind of set in your mind what you think your life is going to turn out like, and then adjusting to something that just feels different and accepting that and allowing yourself to be sad. I don't know if that's what she talked about, but what did she say about grieving?
Yeah. Well, she talks about, she was at her 38th birthday and she was just really miserable. Like she was feeling disappointed that she hadn't met someone yet, but she also wanted to have a baby. And I think, like that to get to the mental hurdle for her of having the baby, she just had to like mourn that idea of what her life would look like, that she would do things maybe in the traditional way, find someone, get married, have a baby. And instead, she really just took matters into her own hands, which I thought was kind of amazing. And I think a lot of this fertility stuff is really a lot about mourning the way you thought it would go.
Yes. Yes.
Like mourning the idea that you have to be doing all of this stuff is almost more upsetting to think that the story of your life isn't going the way you planned it than going to all these appointments and making these decisions.
Yes, totally. And I love that she's talking about it like from the other side. So when you're in it, there's almost that moment of like, am I going to give up on the perfect fairy tale story that I thought was going to happen? Or am I going to just keep trudging through to try to make this thing happen in the exact way that I thought it was going to happen? And I'm really interested to hear what someone has to say who kind of went through it and at some point said, okay, we've got to take a left here and do this in a different way. And now she has, a daughter, and I can only imagine that she's madly in love with her and thrilled that she decided to do what she did.
Yeah. And another really inspiring part of the story is that she has her daughter, but she talks about this, reconnected with an ex, and now she has a son with him. And so it's kind of like, I think that people think when fertility, a lot of single women may think, if I have a baby on my own, I'm now eliminating any chance of having a life that I previously thought I would have. But you could totally have it. And I think she's sort of a prime example of that. You could have it in a different way than you imagine, but you could still have it all if it's not the order that you wanted it in.
Totally. And I think people sometimes play the tape forward so far that they feel like when they're making a decision that they have to then accept like a whole series of imaginary events in their mind that are going to happen as a result of this decision, which is clear in this person's case that that's not what happened. You make this one decision and all it means is that you're making this one decision. It doesn't mean that then, even like for you, if you decide, okay, I'm doing IVF, that doesn't mean that when you want to have a second baby that you're necessarily going to have to do IVF. Like who knows what's going to happen? You're just
Right.
making one decision at a time, but we want to be so in control that it feels like we think we have to pretend like we can play the whole thing forward based on a decision that we're making, which is just not true. So I'm hopefully it's a good reminder of, get unstuck, make your decision, and that's it. And then just let the universe do its thing. And then when you have to come to another decision, you'll do it. But you don't have to have the whole pathway paved on day one.
Exactly. I think that's a great way to look at it. So I'm excited to get into the episode. I think you guys are going to all really enjoy it. We are here with the founder of SLT and Stretched, our very special guest, Amanda Freeman. Welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
I'm so excited to have you on the show. I was just saying I had interviewed you about SLT, which I am like a religious fan of, I think maybe 8 to 10 years ago for the Betches.com website. So it's very cool to be like full circle back with you here today in person.
I love it. When both of our businesses were babies.
Yes, exactly. And so I remember, it's funny because again, this was like 10 years ago. And I remember hearing that you had a baby on your own and talking to my friend who was also like an SLT fanatic. And we would just talk about how cool that was. And I think it was very inspiring because as like just single girls in our 20s, it was like just another example of a different path that you could take to motherhood, even if you didn't find a guy in the sea of awful New York City men. So.
Yeah, it's not that unlikely that you don't find a guy in New York.
Yes. But I would love to hear about your journey because I know we have so many listeners who are young single women who really want to be moms and who want that no matter what. And so I think it would just be really helpful to hear more experiences of people who have done that and just like what your path was to motherhood. So if you want to just start by telling me like, when did you first think about the idea of having kids potentially on your own? Like when did that come to you?
Well, even to back up more, I would say growing up, I was not the person that dreamed of my wedding. I was the girl that dreamed of having a lot of kids. I used to say when I was younger that I want 6 kids with 6 different men. I mean, I don't know where I got that one, but I seriously did. I never focused as much as some people do on like, I want to get married. I want to be a wife. So that is my backdrop. I always knew I wanted children. I really got obsessed with it when I was about 37, 38. And when I turned 38 is when I had my like breaking point, which I think most women have to have in order to actually go do it on their own. Because I think as much as I was comfortable and not so focused on getting married, it's in all of our minds that there is an order of things and that you have children with someone, right? Like that's just like tradition and how we think. And I think in order to break past that and be truly comfortable with having a child on your own, you have to first mourn the life that you thought you were going to have. Because if you don't get through that, then you're going to struggle with living the life that doesn't look like you actually thought you had it. So when I was 38, I remember my 38th birthday, my family was taking me to Sunset Beach, honestly. And I remember like saying, I don't want to go and crying and being like, I don't want to celebrate this birthday. Like not happy with where I am in life. You know, I was single. I was doing well in my business. So that was great. But like, you know, I'm the kind of person that doesn't focus on one aspect of my life too much. I like to have it all going on at once. I'm not one of these like
one track mind.
Yeah,
right?
I'm not that at all. I eat, no matter how busy I am at work, I still eat. Like those people who are like, I was so busy I couldn't eat. I'm like, what? You can't do 2 things? Like, I don't understand.
Right.
So I can't just be happy in the one thing that's going well if the other stuff isn't going well. And there's one other story I feel like I should tell. So I went to business school, and when I was in business school, I took a class that was called Women Building Businesses. And I was not a women's person at this point. I was 25 when I went to business school, and I wasn't into like the women's clubs and all that. Now I way more am. I just kind of thought it's like, okay, you know, why do we have to separate ourselves so
Right.
much? But I took this class because it was the one class where you could do a business plan as part of the class. And the class was basically a woman CEO who was running a Fortune 500 company would come in and speak to us. And she would give whatever talk she meant to give. And then at the end, we would get to ask her questions. And in every Q&A, somebody raised their hand and said, what is/was your work-life balance like, depending on where they were in their career. And the way I remember it, one of my best friends remembers it slightly different, but the way I remember it is that every single one of these women, when asked about their personal life, started crying.
Oh my God.
And my friend said it wasn't every single one, but that was my takeaway. And it was either because they never had kids, or they don't speak to the kids that they had, or they never got married, or they didn't, their marriage was a mess because they gave it no time. One of the women said that she had decided early on in her life, in her career, that she was going to do less, better. So that she was, going to be really good at the things she was going to focus.
Fewer, better things. Yeah.
Focus. And so she focused on her career and not her personal life. And at the end of the class, the last day, we went around the room with reflections, and I raised my hand and I said, this class has made me less ambitious. If running a Fortune 500 company means that I am going to be standing here 30 years from now crying because of all the things that I didn't get to do, I don't want to do it. I said, from here on in, my philosophy is more, worse. That I want to do the things, all the things.
Right. Medium.
And be like, okay at them. Like, just be good. Like, try to be good. Don't try to be amazing or great or the best or anything. I just knew I wanted the things. And I'm a big, live life with as few regrets as possible person. And so this, all these things went together. And so I was 27, let's say, when I was in that class, because it was probably my second year, 26 or 27. Fast forward back to the 11 years later, when I'm 38, I have a great career.
It's probably in the back of your mind this entire time.
Always. I have somebody made me, actually, for my baby shower, when I eventually got pregnant, I had one of these cocktail it was a party. It was at night. It was a cocktail party. It was men and women. It was a rager, but I was
cool
pregnant.
Baby shower. Yeah.
And somebody made me, she actually worked at Facebook, and Sheryl Sanders had written her book, and
lean in. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And there was something she said, this person framed one of Cheryl's comments, and then my more worse comment, and I have it in a frame in my house right now. So this is my guiding principle, the more worse, always. That, when I get mad at myself for half-assing something, I'm like, this is your goal. Your goal is to half-ass everything.
But I think it's kind of inspiring, because it's just do it.
Yeah.
And then you'll figure it out.
Right.
Instead of feeling like you have to be the best at doing it. I also want to say, clearly you're not trying to brag, but you're talking about Harvard Business School. Right?
Yes.
So clearly you're on a very ambitious career track. And I think that's so relatable. And it's funny because I remember Googling at a younger age, female CEOs and when they had kids, and if they were in relationships, or if they ever got married, or anyone famous, even famous actresses, just trying to see to feel you could have it both ways. And most of the people you find are a little behind in one area.
Totally.
Yeah.
Or it's not what it appears.
Right.
You read all these things. Oh, you thought they were happily married. They were living separate lives.
For sure.
So yeah, I think it's hard to do. Some people say you can do everything, but not all at once. They've got all these philosophies, but I want it all at once. So if I want it all at once, it's got to be I can't be that good at any of them.
Right.
One of my children prefers my caregiver to both myself and my boyfriend to put him to bed. And always I'm second I say I'm second favorite for both my kids amongst the 3 adults in the house. So I'm good, because on average, we're all basic, we're all second favorite here.
Right.
And everyone's are you not so upset that he'd rather your nanny put him to bed? And I'm like, no. Yeah. And then I'm
more worse
I'm also
things,
I can go back to work,
right.
There's pros and cons of it all, but you just can't be everything
to everyone at the same time.
Yeah.
But you could be a little bit to everyone at the same time, right?
I mean, I try my hardest, but at a lot of things. So
right. I actually really like that, because it kind of gives you this sense of you don't have to. again, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be, because I think everyone, especially for things like having a baby on your own or, starting a business or anything like that, I think there's this feeling or everything has to align perfectly in order for you to jump into like making that choice happen for you.
Yeah.
And that really holds you back because then again, you're just not going for it.
Totally. And like, you don't know when your career is going to be have the best opportunities. You don't know when you'll be able to get pregnant or not. Like you can't control all the things. And I am a big controlling person. And fortunately, there are ways to control getting pregnant for people, if at worst adoption, but you can't control the timing of it all. So you do sometimes have to like take actions into your own hands
for sure
when the timing doesn't align. So I'll go back.
So now you're
I'm
at your
crying
birthday.
at my 38th birthday party. They make me go to Sunset Beach.
Sorry. Okay.
I was happy I went. I remember the sunset that night. But that was my real like breaking point where I was like, that's it. I'm just having, I'm not waiting for someone to fill that void to then enable me to go have the child that I just know I've always known I want to have. And like now 38, like now that I'm a lot older and people are having babies in their mid 40s now, I'm like, ooh, I was kind of, I kind of jumped the gun a year maybe or two. But at the time I was like, that's it. Like I'm not waiting any longer. I can't wait for, Prince Charming or whatever it is. And so I actually had a friend who was a little behind me in similar thinking. And we went to go to a Tony Robbins thing in person. Yeah, I mean, like when you're kind of vulnerable,
or if you're feeling lost,
stuff, you're like looking for inspo or something to help guide you.
I went to a Reiki healer, so I think that I'm totally on board with whatever. Let's see what sticks.
I just did a journey. If you ever want to talk about that, and I'm the most controlling person on planet Earth, so it wasn't for me. But anyway, so we went to a Tony Robbins thing, and she like left that thing being like, okay, I am doing this. And I actually, this is maybe TMI, but like I was on a medication that you cannot be on to get pregnant. So it took me like I had to wait 3 months. She went with me to this thing and was like, that's it, I'm doing this. And the whole sperm bank thing is super fascinating. It's like online dating. But so she was like 3 months ahead of me at this point. So she actually I met with a bunch of people who had done this. There were a few women that I knew who had babies on their own. And I'd take them to coffee like a job interview. And one of them had told me, oh, you have to look at this one sperm bank because you can see pictures of not only the guys when they're babies, which is what most sperm banks have, but you actually see their adult photos. And it's like everybody's a cute baby, but not everybody's a cute adult, right? She's like, once you see this, you will go look at the other sites and be like, no. Like, I now need to know how this turns out. Right. So my friend actually took a first pass at looking at the site, and she kind of whittled it down for me.
Oh, for you.
She was like so organized.
It's like someone taking your like dating app.
Yeah, when your friend takes over and is like, let me do this for you. So she narrowed it down to like, let's say 8 that she thought were the best. I went through her 8. We picked our favorites, and some people pick based on like IQ.
Do they give you like education, all that stuff?
Very general. They're not going to tell you what college they go to because in these days, like you can find these people. Right. And this is really supposed to be anonymous. But you do get like GPA and what they majored in. You like see family diseases, all those things. But, we both were kind of like, we want to pick someone who we are kind of attracted to. Like
you would in a regular dating scenario.
And like we're both Jewish, and so we were like, we should probably have no one Jewish because there's all these like Jewish diseases. Then we can avoid all that stuff. And then we were like, what if we pick the same person? Like what are we going to do about that? Fortunately, we picked different people, and she's like doing great with her healthy child, but she was 3 months ahead of me.
Was there a part of you that thought that would be kind of cool to like have your kids have
have siblings? Yeah. And I've had friends like since because I still have some sperm, I've encouraged another friend of mine who was thinking of doing it. In the end, like she's not doing it, but I was like, you should use my sperm. Like how great for your child, right? Who's going to be alone. My daughter has a brother. So like, it's even more.
Have them be all connected.
Yeah. And I'm like, your child will now have like, we'll all be family. How great will that be? I mean, I was very encouraging of it. I think she thought it was weird. I think you're like, what if one feels more fortunate than the other and they're like jealous and all that stuff. So that didn't end up happening. But
You basically like buy the sperm.
yeah. So
Okay.
we had a joint account. So we're pretty confident they thought we were like a couple. And the like good ones go really fast. So she was so good. She would like call the sperm bank. She ended up on the phone with one of the guys once. Like that's how friendly she got with like the people at the sperm bank. She's like one of those people that like charms everybody.
Right.
And she's like, I want to talk to him. I want to hear his voice and like know what he's doing. And she ended up on the phone with him, which is like
She
so
got him on the phone.
outside,
Wow.
so
Okay.
outside the lines, I think, of this stuff normally. So we picked it out. I was like, this is the one. Of all of them, there was one. And I think probably because he reminds me a similar look. People tend to be like attracted to people that like look like them.
Right.
And not that I was like, he looks like me, but I was like, he's my type. Granted,
Yes.
he's like 20 something and I'm 38. So we just bought it. You know, you buy like, if you can, you just buy like 10 vials because you don't know how many kids you're going to want to have.
Right.
You don't know how many times it's going to need to try. Like I still have it just in case. You
And
know?
each vial is like for one shot, essentially.
Yes.
Okay.
And the place I ended up going, though, they actually had me come in 2 days in a row, like
Okay.
while you're ovulating. So I actually would use 2 vials
got
each
it.
shot, but not
Okay.
every place is like that.
Can I ask what the cost is of like, is it like just a direct purchase? Do you have to go through insurance? Is it like,
I have
what's
no
the-
insurance, at least not for me. There was like, let's say a few $100 membership on the site.
Okay.
And then it was probably, I think it was around $1,000 a vial, but then there's storage.
Right.
So like these things are kept in like freezers somewhere.
Storage fees, yeah.
So like I'm still paying storage. Like my friend will every like year she'll be like, you owe me $400 for like this year's storage because we like still have it going.
Right. But I mean, that even like, it's interesting just because we had, a man on here who's had a child on his own. And it seems like the process to purchase eggs is a lot more expensive. Obviously, it's a lot
Yes.
more like intensive process to get those from women than it
It's
is
like
for
a
men.
surgery versus like
Right.
a
Just-
fun hour.
Exactly.
You know?
A regular day in the life.
Yeah.
So that's good. I think that's kind of like encouraging to know probably.
Yes,
I'm
and
sure that
prices
wasn't
have probably gone up. There's probably inflation.
right. And I mean, but this was like, this sounds like a top of the line sperm bank that you could see the adults.
Yeah.
Right. So
yes. I mean, there are ones, again, we chose a little bit based on looks, which some people were like, I would have chose based on intelligence. But like, again, it's like, I was kind of like, I don't want to look at my child and be like, I chose that. Like, it's like a different thing. And not that I'm that superficial, but I've grown up around a lot of smart people. And I think sometimes being like a genius makes you very sad. So
Right.
I do not.
Well, you want a little bit of
Yeah.
everything,
Yeah.
right? If in an ideal world.
And I want my
Yeah.
child to have like, I don't know. I was like, this is one of my priorities, whether you like it or not. I'd like a child that I think is cute. So
Right. I think most people, whether they'd want to admit it or not, feel very similarly.
totally.
Yeah.
So then you got to figure out your like fertility situation. And I actually found out that I had cysts on my ovaries that were like
Benign.
benign, but that I had to get removed. So I did have like a procedure, which again, like delayed me behind this friend a little bit. And I was, coming off my medication, but
Was there anxiety and feeling like it needed to go faster, or were you fine with the
once
pace
you
it was
make a
going?
decision, you kind of want to get on with it.
Right.
So yeah, that was like a little annoying, but it does get you more comfortable. Like at that point, you're really comfortable.
Right.
And you really want it to happen. So like my other friend she had made such a split decision and just went and did it. And she was a little hesitant. And then the first time it didn't work.
Okay.
And I was like, if you're going to be upset, I'm like, it's kind of a blessing that it didn't work because you could see a reaction. If you're relieved that it didn't work, maybe
you
you're
weren't
not
sure.
ready.
Yeah.
And if you're disappointed, keep going. And that's what happened to her. For me, once I was able to start doing, we did IUIs, both my friend and I. So not IVF. This was like squirt, turkey baster.
Right.
Feet in stirrups. And my first 2, I forget if it's 3 or 2 now. My first 2, I had what they call a chemical pregnancy. So where you get pregnant for like a week.
For 2. That's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But but it's like, it's not a miscarriage. It's not like you've been pregnant for 2 months. It's like,
Right. You haven't had that long to get used to the
Right.
idea of being pregnant to where it's like maybe potentially more heartbreaking.
totally.
Sure.
And then when people get pregnant naturally, they don't get to see a doctor for like months. I don't think a doctor wants to see
I
you
think
until
for like 9 weeks.
yeah, like 2 months or something.
Right.
With this, they're monitoring you like every day.
Right.
So even when you have a chemical pregnancy, you often know you're probably going to lose it because they know how strong it is. Like they can test your
Right.
and they'll give you
the HCG
progesterone,
levels, yeah.
and so like it's not shocking when these things usually happen. And then the third time worked. And what they say is like if after the third time it didn't work, they would have told you to choose a different sperm donor because there might have been something about the way you mix. You know,
Right.
there's this chemistry thing in real life that like now is out of the picture. So fortunately, the third time it worked. I did have to take progesterone because I had like the low levels and you'd have like spotting and be like nervous. But I was very happy. I had a pretty easy pregnancy and I enjoyed it. I ate a lot of challah and drank a lot of lemonade. Those were like my two
Interesting.
things. Yeah. Peanut butter too. And now my daughter has a peanut allergy. So you figure that one out.
Interesting.
I don't know. I mean, so many kids have these days, but
Right.
like I was obsessed with peanut butter. So I don't really understand it.
Yeah, I wonder. Do they say that has an effect?
No. I mean, I was also obsessed with peanut butter with my son and he doesn't have the allergy. But you'd think if someone ate it like in their
Right.
the womb, like they wouldn't be allergic to it.
So did you want to do IUI was just sort of like your first, like what made you do IUI instead of IVF? It was just like less invasive and less expensive?
I'm like very needle phobic. The fact that I even got through and like pain averse.
Okay.
The fact that I even got through labor is crazy.
So you never froze your eggs?
No.
Okay.
It also wasn't so until around that time, I think egg freezing wasn't that sophisticated. And when people went to thaw eggs out, I don't think they worked that well. I remember I had a gynecologist that was like, he was kind of against it until he felt like the technology he thought it was false hope
Okay.
because people would put their eggs in the freezer and then find out that they weren't good. The technology did not get sophisticated until like 10 years ago.
Right.
I
Now
think.
it seems like it's
great. Yeah,
everywhere.
everyone should do it.
For sure.
Yeah. But no, I hadn't done it. And I was going to go to IVF if I had to. I think they would have had me try like 6 IUIs before IVF
Okay.
when you're trying the way I was and
Right.
at my age. I think if I was 42, they might have been like, go right to IVF.
Okay. And did insurance cover any of that?
No.
Okay.
No. I think when you're when you're trying on your own, I think certain insurances cover it once you've had like 6 failed attempts. Like
Right.
there has to be a buildup.
Before you get
To
to
that,
IVF
yeah.
or something.
Or
Right.
to be covered. Like
to
the
be covered,
first
right.
stuff is like on
Out of
you.
pocket, right.
And yeah, I mean, I've worked at like startups for for most of my career, and we don't have the good insurance. We have like
Right.
the
Yeah,
basic
because
insurance.
the insurance when you were employing like 10 people.
yeah,
it's usually
it's
not great.
expensive and not that good.
This episode of Baby Steps is sponsored by BetterHelp. It's almost the end of the year, and this time, while it can be exciting, can also be really stressful. And a lot of people feel a lot of sadness and anxiety about it. And it's not just the stress of finding gifts, but it's also the stress of seeing your family, of it starting to get cold, a little seasonal depression. But adding something new and positive to your life can counteract some of those feelings. And therapy for me is always something I go to when I'm feeling anxiety or stress around anything, whether it's the holidays, winter, or just like things that are going on in my life that are not going as I planned. I've been to therapy for over 8 years now, and nothing has helped me quite as much as therapy has overcome whatever obstacles come my way. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Find your bright spot this season with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/babysteps today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/babysteps. So you get pregnant, and then like, how did that feel like going through that when you finally were pregnant? Was there a sense of like just excitement, or like, were you having any issues like processing that, or?
I thought it was fun and exciting, and I didn't feel that lonely. And I think people would expect, or I didn't feel lonely at all.
Okay.
I think because I also had like a busy, thriving social life. It didn't really stop much of what I was doing. I remember my like baby moon. I just asked like this random guy friend of mine. I wanted to try this hotel in Nicaragua. I mean, it's so random.
Awesome.
But I wanted to check it out. And like this just random guy friend of mine, I was like, do you want to go to Nicaragua? He's a surfer. I was like 5 months pregnant and we went to Nicaragua. And I just, the only thing I had to worry about there was like the food, eating something that like was bad because I was in Nicaragua.
Right.
So I was careful about what I ate, but otherwise like
You're living
it was
your
great.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And someone who works for me just had a baby on Monday, and she was like, I just want to have this baby already. I just remember being like, keep this in me as long as possible because I had so much to do.
Right.
I was not in the rush to get the baby out where like most people are. I was like, I'm not ready. I won't be, my life, like there's still so many things to do. I also did not take a maternity leave, so it wasn't going to dramatically change my life at all. Like literally probably I didn't go to the office for 10 days. And that includes like the day I went to the hospital. Right. And you're in the hospital
you're
for 3 days.
Physically recovered enough to...
to like walk to my office. Yeah. I mean, literally I like lived on, 3 blocks up from here and I work 4 blocks down.
Right.
And I'd bring like my pumping stuff. I did the breastfeeding for a very short period of time. I say the world is black and white when I was breastfeeding. And the minute I was done, it was like color again. Like color came back. I like hated it, but some people love it.
I feel like that's most people's experience that I talk to is much more in line with yours.
A friend on one shoulder who was like, I say she was like the angel of breastfeeding. And then my sister on the other shoulder being like, why are you doing that? My friend would be like, let me buy you things to help you. It's so great. And then my sister would be like, why are you even doing that? Like, she had a baby and then like went out to dinner like left the hospital and was like out at dinner with her husband that night. I'm not kidding. Like when you don't breastfeed.
Right. There's much less of a need for you to be there all the time.
Yeah, you might have like a diaper on, but you can go to dinner.
Right.
And I was running my own company and my COO had resigned like 2 weeks before I had my baby. So I didn't have the luxury and I was happy. Honestly, I don't love like change. I like normalcy.
Right.
So I was kind of happy to have the normalcy. I mean, other than just like pumping in the office.
Yeah. I feel like you were a like quintessential New York businesswoman. Like
yes.
having the baby, emailing probably from the hospital, like the whole
100%.
Yeah.
And then the other joke about giving birth in New York is like, I had a list of things to do from the hospital. One was like send an announcement, whatever. The other was like signing up for this one class that your kid can start when they're like 6 months old.
Of course, yeah.
And you got to put yourself on like the wait list the day they're born. And I swear I like made that call. Like, I'd like to put Flynn on the list. And then for that first like 10 days, I tried to do the like work from home or like have my nanny, a baby nurse, bring my baby to my office for me to feed or whatever. And I did not like that mixing of like the two worlds. It was like pretty early on where I was like, when I'm at home, I'm not going to work. I'm going to deal with the baby. And when I'm at the office, had to pump, but I'm not like bringing my baby to the office.
Right.
I needed that separation. Other people, like the only way it works for them for various reasons is if they can like bring the worlds together. I still liked them kind of apart.
That makes sense. So you can be sort of fully focused on each
and
area.
Work from home is like never my thing, still not my thing. So it makes sense that I would be like that back then too.
But it wasn't overwhelming to feel like you had this baby on like you were doing it on your own. I assume you had help.
Yes, I was going to say so one of the reasons that I felt comfortable having the baby at 38 is I was finally financially stable enough to know that like it wasn't going to having this baby was not going to restrict me too much. And I think I needed to know that too, that my life, not restrict in like this, it sounds terrible, but I wasn't going to have to like sacrifice too much of what I was already doing. I was financially able. It wasn't like I couldn't join the gym now because I had a baby. I could do both of the things. And that was important to me. Like I need to feel in control. That's like the theme of my life. And I felt like I was in a good position for it.
And you had the resources to be able to.
Yeah, so I had
I
was able to get a baby nurse and she was amazing. I said she was my like wife the whole time. She was like truly amazing. I kept her forever.
Okay.
Literally she left after 15 months. And I was
wow.
devastated when she
15
did.
15 months.
Yeah,
Baby-
she like
okay.
turned into a nanny basically.
Right.
But,
Yeah. Okay.
but she was a baby nurse.
That's the longest I've heard.
Oh my God. Crazy.
Yeah.
But the
Right.
funny, I'll tell you another funny little anecdote. So I had this couple that I was very close with, and they had a baby like a few days after me. And we took, it wasn't CPR. I think we took a breastfeeding class together, like me and this couple, and they're awesome. And the lady who was like teaching us, she kept giving me so much latitude. And like them, she'd be like, oh, you, because you're on your own, like you could do anything. Like we're not criticizing anything you do. And then to my other friend, because she had a husband, she'd be like, well, you should, she was way
She got
stricter
special
with
treatment.
her. Yeah. And
Okay.
I was like,
Yeah.
we, and my friend and I still joke about it. Like this woman and I are in a mommy group.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still in like a mommy, I say it's like a mommy therapy group that we've been in now for 7.5 years because all our kids are 8.
Oh, wow.
And we still joke about it. We'll be like, we keep trying to think of her name, but like how mean she was to them and how like anything I could do was like perfect because
Did
of
you
my
like
situation.
That? Right. Did you feel like people, like maybe not just her, but generally, do you feel like people sort of like had a different attitude about you and having a baby than maybe other people? Or,
I mean, I think most people probably felt sorry for me, which I don't want, like the pity, and I don't
Right.
want to be like, oh, that sad person who like didn't find someone and
But they're
had to
probably
do it on their
impressed.
own. Some people
right,
are.
yeah.
I think some people are like, whoa, like there's still a stigma, but the stigma is way more gone today, 9 years later. Like I got pregnant 9 years ago, or I was
Right.
doing this
Different
9 years
time.
ago. It was different. It was less common. Now I know a lot of people. And so there's more of like a club, and it's more just like bad luck. It was like, oh, she just had bad luck. She didn't meet someone.
Right.
It used to be what's wrong with her.
well, that's
that she
probably
has to do it.
the case with like IVF also. Like it used to be like this kind of like secret stigmatized thing. And
Yeah.
now it's like, seems like everyone's, on social media, it seems like everyone has had some form of that.
Yeah, and people are like skipping even like it
Yeah,
used
IUI,
to also
yeah.
be you needed to like try naturally first, then IUI. Now I feel like, and I'm actually surprised. I was with like a friend over the weekend who told me she's trying to get pregnant like in her 40s, and I was like, naturally? Like you're trying to
Right.
do it naturally? Like what are you thinking? Like
Right. Now it's like an obvious first
it's like,
thought.
I'm like, you're not taking anything. You're not like. I was like, see a doctor.
Are you sure? Yeah. Okay.
I was like, I don't know if you have a lot of time to just see if it happens.
Right. Well, that's kind of the thing. It feels like there's these two senses of you don't want to alarm anyone, but then there is this sense of like, having been through a fertility process, like the earlier you start doing medical interventions, the better.
Totally.
So you have Flynn, and then are you dating at that point? Like how is dating different? Like, did you feel better about dating because it kind of took the time pressure off? Like, how was that for you?
So I went on one date that was like a real like first date, and someone had introduced me to their brother, to this guy. I forget who actually did the date, and my daughter was like 2 months old. I'm not kidding, like really young, and we went to the Polo Bar. And it was
did you
very
disclose?
fancy.
Did you like let him know before?
I didn't say
that
anything
you had-
before, and I was like, I wonder if he knows. He probably knows. Like, I know his sister. Like,
right. She probably
knows.
mentioned it. Yeah.
But it wasn't. I don't think it was her that set us up. Like, I forget. I think maybe we met, or he was a real estate broker, and maybe he showed me spaces.
Okay.
And he was dating people when I met him. So we go out to dinner, and I'm wondering if he knows. And he knew. So he like brought it up right away. I didn't bring it up.
Okay.
He brought it up, and it was totally easy and good. But context for this whole thing. So that was like the only date I went on, like in this context, is so in 2003, I started dating a guy. I dated him for 5 or 6 years. 6 years. We
Okay.
broke up in like early 2009. He's a very like non-committal type of person, just like indecisive in general.
Very New York.
Like I decide what we order to eat,
Right,
that kind of
okay.
thing. We were on again, off again, but mostly together for like 6 years, and then we broke up. And I joke that like we've never dated again, but we actually started like hanging out. I'm not going to get too graphic. Literally right around when I got pregnant with my daughter.
Really?
So when I got pregnant, he actually asked me to take a paternity test.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But it wasn't his. So for the most part, I like was basic. He was now like back in my life when my daughter was born. He was like really into my daughter. It was bizarre.
And you were like kind of dating, but
yeah.
weren't
I mean, I
calling
went
it
on
that?
this date, so
Okay.
like we couldn't have been like,
Exclusive.
yeah. But we didn't live together, obviously, at that time. But he would like come over every day, see my daughter, like come in the morning sometimes. I'd go to work. He'd go to his apartment where he worked. And then I'd come home from work. He'd come over. Like it was like this very interesting thing. He kind of came back in my life right around this time. And it was almost like he felt guilty that he wasn't actually the father, but he was so into her. I mean, he is my daughter. Like flash forward today, he's my daughter's father. And then we actually
sounds like a rom-com.
I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. And then do you remember Zika?
Of course.
Okay,
yes.
These were the days of Zika. And I was like unsure if I would ever want a second baby or not, but you avoided certain places to go on vacation during Zika. And so he came with me, my daughter, and my baby nurse. We ended up going on a trip. We went to Hawaii for Christmas. And I ended up getting pregnant, like naturally.
Were you trying?
Not at all.
Wow.
Like,
and how old were you at that point?
He would joke that it was basically immaculate because there's like, we know the exact one time it's only possible that it could have happened. And my daughter was she was 1 and 2 months because it was Christmas and today's my daughter's birthday.
So you were like 40.
God. Today's my daughter's birthday.
Amazing. Happy birthday. What an amazing episode
I know,
to be
that's
recording
what I'm saying.
8 years ago.
Today.
Oh,
But yeah, so I end up getting pregnant. Again, he made me take a paternity test. And I'm like, I didn't do anything else. What is going on
That's where
here?
it gets less rom-commy.
I mean, it's very fun. I'm like, your family is telling you to do this, aren't they? But
okay, so it's unplanned, clearly.
Totally unplanned.
Okay. How did he feel about it?
I mean, he was a little stressed.
Okay.
I mean, this is a person who doesn't like to commit to things. Having a child's very committal. Like he never bought a car. He never bought an apartment, a house, like nothing. Worked for himself, all the things. So I think it freaked him out. And then we were so complicated. Like I live with my daughter in one place. He lives separate. We had no intention of living together just because of it.
Right.
But I ended up it worked out.
Were you happy? How did you?
Yeah. I mean, I was wondering if I didn't want an only child. I am so lucky. I have a brother and a sister. Mm-hmm. My parents both died like 2020 and 22 years ago, respectively.
Sorry.
I'm so lucky to have my siblings. So I didn't want my child to be an only child, but was I going to have a second child on my own? I did not know.
Right.
So the fact that this happened was like, okay, I'm having a second child. Great.
Here's the sign.
Decision made.
Right. Yeah.
Great. We lived close to each other. I'm trying to think like who moved when. I think he moved down to be closer to my daughter and I. And then I had my son and I needed a bigger apartment. So we moved, but he did not move in with us. So he lived separate. I lived with the kids and a caregiver. And again, he would come over in the morning,
maintaining his own place.
His own place. Then we'd split up during work hours or, whatever. And then I'd come home from work and he'd come back and we'd have like dinner with the kids. And then COVID, and that was how it was. And then COVID happened and we left the city. I have a house in Amagansett in like Long Island, and we all moved into that. And then we lived together and we ended up staying 18 months. So we didn't come back to the city.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Until like a whole nother school year, not the next school year, the one after. And when we moved back, we're like, are we looking for an apartment together or what are we doing here?
Right. Well, you've already been living together
but in a big house, like a house, we were just joking about a New York City apartment. Like, are we
right? Can you handle living together in a much smaller
in like a box,
space?
A small box. And so we're like, what are we like? We got to decide, what are we looking for? Like, and so we said, like, if we had a apartment, if we found a 4-bedroom, we would live together. And if we could only find a 3-bedroom, I'd live in the 3-bedroom with the kids and he would get a 1 or 2 bedroom close, Okay. So we found a 4-bedroom and we all live together. I told you the bedroom situation is fascinating. Like I get the master. He has a separate room. My kids share a room because I have a live-in because I work a lot and I need the flexibility. Like Saturday, I'm actually going to watch someone teach a class in New Jersey. And just, again, I'm fortunate enough to be able to afford it. And that was a priority for us. And so, we're one big, happy, messed up,
I think it's amazing.
Family.
I love it. I love it just because it's so non-traditional and it seems like it works so well for you. And I think it's just inspiring to do your own thing, not feel like you need to get married, not feel like you need to, wait for someone to have a baby. And when did he adopt your daughter formally, or he's just kind of like, she calls him dad?
She calls him dad. When she was young, she called him Michael.
Okay.
And then it switched. I think probably she probably only started talking around when my son was born. I was going to say she started calling him daddy. I don't remember when. And at first I was like, I'm a very literal person and I'm very into like the truth and like precise about things. And so I at first didn't want her to call him daddy, but then obviously I went with it, and he is her dad. Like,
and he's known her since she was born.
Oh yeah. I mean, he was he was in the hospital waiting outside when she was being born. And it's a little complicated now with like my son and my daughter of like, what's the difference, like, and there's like Mike's relatives, my boyfriend's relatives do see my two children slightly differently. Like one is their actual grandchild or nephew and one isn't. So it's not like simple,
I'm sure,
but it's not horrible. There are worse things. And everyone's always like, does she know the situation? And you're not going to like pound it into someone's head. Like how often can you tell someone like, here's the deal, know who you are. And I told her at one age, and then I was like wondering, I don't even know if she remembers or like gets it. And then I actually listened to her tell a friend like the story. She'd be like, my mommy had me. And then daddy came into our lives, is how she tells it. And mommy and daddy had Archer. And I mean, she doesn't know about sex or like how babies are made. So she seems to get it in theory. I actually need to talk to my like experty person about how I like when I go into it again. Yeah. When you re-explain the whole situation.
Well, it seems like it's almost like a cleaner situation than if you had, dated her father. And then he was maybe like, you know what I mean? If you had a contentious or bad relationship, this seems like a much clean, like I come from a family where like both my parents have kids from their previous marriages, and that's like a real mess.
Yeah.
So this seems like a lot cleaner to me.
In some ways, but like that's more normal. It's more normal
traditional
that there's like, oh, where you can point to a genetic dad versus like, this is a difference. Like, she thinks I had her alone right now. She doesn't understand like how it works.
For sure.
But yeah, I mean, that's why in some ways, like, it's easier to raise your child by yourself than with another person because, as silly a thing as like,
you don't have to compromise.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I was almost like, oh shit. Like now I have to compromise. Now, if I want to make any move, like I need to run it by someone.
Right. Yeah.
Or anything. So obviously, like, I'm going to say the pros outweigh the cons, but there is something to be said for being fully in control of how you want to raise a child.
Right.
I mean, you see a lot of couples break up.
The big benefit, I think. It's like you get to unilaterally make all the decisions and you have like the full custodial rights to.
Right. But I went and complicated it because, now I have one child. I can't like take her, or what am I doing with my son, or.
Right.
So but that's why with friends who are like debating it and I know they want like a man in the situation so much, I'm like, just so you know, you're pretty controlling and you're going to have trouble compromising. And, so there is like, that's one of the benefits of single parenting.
Okay. So it sounds like to anyone listening who's thinking about doing this, it sounds like you are wholeheartedly like saying it was, I assume, one of the best decisions you've ever made, right?
Oh, yeah. You do not regret bringing life into this world. And, obviously children are a blessing. I mean, this time more than ever, we can all appreciate that. But I now have several friends who've done it, and everyone is in a slightly different situation. I think one of the things that women have trouble with is they think that if they go and have a baby on their own, they're completely throwing in the towel on ever meeting a guy.
Right.
Like they're like, that door is shut. No one's going to want to date me.
I think that's the fear. Yeah.
And I don't think that's true. I mean, you just heard my story. I knew him before. So that's like, people would say, but he's like your ex-boyfriend. Like it's different. But I have a friend who like met someone very like when she had a 6-month-old or something. I think her baby was maybe even 3 months old or something. And then is with him and has a baby with him. I have, several friends who they're still single, but they date and they're happy. And it's not going to be all good times, but nothing is all good times.
Even if you're with someone, it's not all good times. Right.
But I don't think any one of them would ever say they regret what they did. they did the best with the hand that they were dealt.
Right. And I think that, like, again, dating or not dating, like, you do get a benefit of, people date with kids all the time. Divorced people date with kids, widows date with kids. And I think the benefit here, I mean, to me is like, again, there's not an external additional person to deal with, which again makes things might make things easier in that way than if you were dating with kids with an ex that was very involved or, dealing with other baggage.
Yeah. And I have another friend who considered asking like a guy friend for his sperm and like doing that. And I thought that's super complicated, but that's another option. There are friends who are like, we both want to have kids. Let's just co-parent.
Like that movie.
Yeah.
Who's Friends with Kids. Have you seen that?
Yeah. I mean, I love all that stuff.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. I mean, it's still very non-traditional, but it's less so in like major cities. And now there are just enough examples of like that it works that I think more women are seeing it as a viable option. And I love you brought up, how expensive it is for guys in the reverse. I think it's, I've seen more guys do it, which I love. And I just met a guy who he was planning to do it. And then he met a woman and he was like, this is what I'm planning to do. And he went and did it. And she stood by him and like, they're together, but like he adopted these kids and
that's
it's
amazing.
Working in like that.
I've never heard of a single straight man doing it. That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I
him
think
on the show.
I talked to like another person who's like 50 and a single guy. And I'm looking at him kind of like, are you up for making the lifestyle changes? Like,
right. I think it's so amazing that you came on here and shared the story. Thank you so much. I feel like, again, it feels like normalizing. I think it's really inspirational to take your own life into your own hands. And I think just wanted to circle back really quickly just about what you said about like the grieving process and then the acceptance of, where you're at in life and try, because I feel like it's kind of like that with all fertility struggles. It's like, you don't think of the story in most people's lives is like, I'll get married and then I'll have a kid and it'll happen very easily. And then I'll just like have these healthy kids and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
And I think coming to terms with not having the traditional path, whatever way it might be, is probably the hardest part, like you said, for anyone.
It's so hard. Yeah. I mean, I have a friend who's going through an adoption process now and having watched her get to this place is so hard. And I think the key is to keep your eye on like the
prize.
Goal, the prize. Yeah. Keep your eye on the prize and be like, my goal in the end is to end up with a child. And there's a lot of ways to do it, but you do have to like push past the like your vision. Yeah. I mean, you have to like start a new vision board. And it's like focused on this new reality and not what you always pictured. And it can be just as happy or even better than you might have imagined the old one to be.
For sure. And from everything I've heard from people who underwent any of this stuff, it feels like in the end, once you have the baby, you don't really think about how you got there that much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people find you? Where can they find SLT? Where can they find Stretched?
So SLT is at SLT NYC on all the social media platforms. Stretched is at Stretch Space on them. And then I am at Amanda Hope Freeman on Instagram mostly because I'm old and set in my ways.
So am I. Well, thank you again. And we'll be back next time on Baby Steps.
Thank you.
Thanks again to Amanda Freeman and our presenting sponsor, BetterHelp. I hope this episode has been a help to you on your path to parenthood. If you want to get started with therapy, I highly recommend trying BetterHelp. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Visit BetterHelp.com/babysteps today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/babysteps.
Betches.